and get more qualified candidates in?
That, or even check with do something with the local unemployment office.
I don't think it's gonna make a huge difference, because I
Right.
think right now people tell everybody they can, you know, hey, we're hiring, so, but, I mean, if, it ain't gonna hurt either. I just don't think it's gonna be that. The problems we have in staffing is, one, it's not the most awesomest high-paying job in the world. And
No,
because we're remotely located, you know, we're pretty much bound to the people that are around here locally. But, you know,
I just thought I'd throw it out there.
I mean, I think it's a good idea, it's a good incentive. I mean,
That's
the only thing I
what
would
they
be concerned about is how you dispersed it, because I mean, we do have a big turnover.
Well, I was
So
thinking, you know, like, after the first 90 days, after they do their probationary period, and then either
Like a
upon
year.
completion of 6 months or a year, because that's, I mean,
Yeah,
where I was before, they did it in increments, they did it in 3 different increments, but it was a lot more money than we're thinking about
Right.
here.
Yeah.
I only see one problem that I just thought of, and that is, say, if an employee refers somebody and they get hired, and that new employee is here past the probationary period up to a year, the employee that referred them might not be here anymore.
well, then it's no.
So,
Yeah, that would make it null, I
Yeah.
guess.
but I don't think they should get paid like immediately.
No,
Absolutely
absolutely
not, because
not.
of the way they are.
Right.
And I can even see like a gift card to Walmart or something like that as opposed to, and we're not talking about $3,000.
Yeah.
Or even $300.
I mean, I was thinking like $75 or $100. I mean, nothing outrageous.
Never mind, if you do 125, and when they do it a year, then the rest is 75.
I mean, if you're not interested in pursuing it,
I don't know how much you're gonna get out of it.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
don't,
that's the thing.
I don't think it's gonna make it ain't gonna hurt nothing, but it ain't gonna make a huge difference. It's not gonna solve our staffing issues. You know, it's the nature of the beast of where we are and who we have to choose from.
Who we have to choose from and what we're paying is.
so would you
Well, that's the big thing, is our salaries. If
But
we were,
it ain't gonna hurt nothing.
Big
either. I mean,
salaries.
if they're talking about $75 gift card, if they stay there a year, give it to them, you know, if it makes them sit
I
and
mean, it's just
think
some
about,
some
you know,
sort of
friends that
reward.
might work here, it'd be great. So it
But
ain't
we're
gonna,
not gonna,
not against it.
but I don't think we're gonna hire, like, if they wanna refer a family member. You wanna do that?
Well, if they're a good
We've already
employee, who
got that.
cares?
we already have family members that work here.
Okay,
yeah, they just.
Yeah, if you restricted to
department.
non-family members, we'd lose
Yeah.
okay.
people, I would think.
Well, I don't know who's related to
In
who's
the
not.
country, we're all related.
Okay, well, I'll put some sort of a
To
draft,
Ebony,
I'll put some sort of a draft together, and then we can,
forward it to us.
yeah, and then we can talk about it decide next week and vote on
Okay.
it. Okay.
But to be clear, you're talking $75,
Yeah, oh,
$100, no
yeah.
big money, so.
I mean, where I used to work was like $750.
Yeah,
That was, you know, I mean,
probably bigger salaries.
Yeah, a lot, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
but so, it
Well,
ain't gonna hurt nothing.
a lot different kind of
You know,
personality.
you're talking about buying them a good dinner, if
Right.
their referral makes it a year, I don't see a problem. It isn't gonna hurt anything. It's
Free
probably,
pizza from Jake's.
I used to say we could give them some lunch at McDonald's, but now they're too expensive.
oh yeah, have you bought lunch at McDonald's?
No, I quit.
Not
You
lately.
might as well go get a steak dinner.
I quit.
Okay, the next thing on here is, the proposed covenants changes. The covenants committee had sent us some ideas of what they suggested. This was not something that the board sent to the covenants committee. When I asked about that, I was told that it was something that was ongoing.
But it was initially, given to the covenants committee by the board. It's just
By
been
one of the boards.
bouncing around.
Well, that's what the answer was, yeah.
Yeah,
Because when I saw it, I was like, we didn't ask for this, but then Bob confirmed that it was something that was ongoing.
what the board had asked was if we would change the covenants to exclude anyone that had been a former employee and that had been subsequently fired, that would be a reason to be disqualified as a potential candidate. So that started this whole thing about what are the trustee qualifications.
Okay.
And the covenants committee recommended that the board not do that kind of position, but that there were other things that possibly you could use to strengthen the trustee qualifications.
Has has any of these been an issue in the past with people serving as trustee? The stuff that's on this list, it's been an issue with,
For instance, the bonding was, there was a person that couldn't be bonded, so they bought their own bond. So now that we're specifying through the subdivision.
so have we all been bonded?
Yes,
That's your phone. Do you have another copy of the
Sure.
But have you ever been convicted of a felony? I mean, how's that gonna,
Well, and see, that's what brought it up too.
how's that gonna
That's what
affect your
brought it
duties
up.
as a trustee? I
Well,
mean,
sometimes, if you- depending on the felony, you can't be bonded.
well, then I guess if you couldn't be bonded, then
Yeah,
you're,
then
then that
the
would
bonding
cover it.
takes care of that,
But,
so,
you know, I know guys that have a felony deed of the IRS
Right.
that have quit drinking, that would make a hell of
and
a
that's
trustee.
30 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think, if we throw, you know, the more rules that we put out there, the more covenants that we put in force, the more we have to concentrate on trying to follow all these rules, the less we can concentrate on the hardest thing to do here, the day-to-day operations. I know firsthand, it takes a lot to keep this place going, you know, the maintenance, the security are busy constantly. The office is a madhouse this time of year. We gotta be cautious on making more and more and more rules, you know, we have a constitution in the United States, and our country, our state has state and local laws, our county has local laws. The septic thing, for instance, if you drive by your neighbor's house and his septic's running on top of the ground, you call the state, they come out, they flag him, they deal with it. There are already laws and rules to protect that, but we have taken it upon ourselves to put it on our covenants. Now, we have a new obligation to do that takes away from the day-to-day operations. The boat dock electric thing, for instance, that we voted into our covenants. No, I'm not against, I had a dock on the water and it needs to be safe. The last thing I want to do is electrocute my grandkids, your grandkids, the neighbor's kids, somebody that just swims by. But we put this on our covenants. Now guess who's liable? The Goose Creek Lake covenants, the trustees, the corporation is liable. Before we put it on our covenants, the property owner was liable, and they might be able to come back to us, but once we make these rules, now we have to uphold them. Eric Fultz sat right there and told us, it really don't matter what the state says, because we can pass anything. Once it's on our covenants, it's law. We get this, we're told all the time, it's in the covenants, in the covenants. We need to be cautious about what we put in our covenants. Our job is to help run this place, and it is monumental. So please, before we start piling more and more rules, let's concentrate on doing what we need to do to run it day to
And make
day.
it a safe place to be.
Safe, happy, protect our investments. Look, I'm all in, you're all in. The guy in the back that's got the camping lot, he's all in. Let's protect our investments, make everybody safe. The reason we all bought down here, but let's be real cautious about making more rules that we don't need. Okay?
One of
I was
the things
gonna
I
say-
I don't necessarily agree with that because I'm a trustee, thank you very much, but I want trustees up here that we can trust that don't have an agenda, and we've had trustees with agendas, we've had trustees that written us bad checks, that were in bankruptcy, and all sorts of other stuff, and they got their hands on the money and are trying to. I don't want people like that running Goose Creek. We need to protect Goose Creek.
With that being said, I'm just gonna go to the bankruptcy and foreclosure. We all know what the downfall did. You know, look back when everybody lost their homes, they lost their jobs. There was people that was put in situations that was out of their control, due to medical reasons, due to losing a job or anything like that, and they had no choice but to file bankruptcy.
Okay.
So my personal opinion to that is like you're being judgmental towards them, and it's not fair to them, because each person's
Not have an
situation.
outstanding judgment mean that once it's done, once the bankruptcy's been filed and over with.
I don't
It
think that's
doesn't
none
make-
of our
7
business.
years.
That's what I'm saying.
The
It's not
bonded,
our
I
business.
understand.
That's what I.
The bond will cover
The
it.
bonded, I understand. If you can't be bonded, then you can't serve. But this other stuff, that's too deep and
And
personal.
the
It
other
really
thing-
has nothing to do with whether or not you do the job.
I can tell you now, I went through this in my subdivision because I had a lawsuit there. You have to be a property owner for 12 months prior to July 31st. That's illegal. Because once you buy a piece of property, you are a property owner, whether 10 days, 20 days, whatever. Because I had to go around and get signatures and go to court and stuff. I had a person that already signed and sold the house before I got there, and I had to go back and get that because they have the voice. So the 12 months prior, that has to go. I'll say that now. That's my opinion. But I mean, it's coming from my attorney when I was involved with that.
And I'm against the drug, I'm sorry, but I'm against the drug testing.
12 months prior, that is a qualification for municipalities.
Not normal.
Yeah,
I went to court on it, so I know it's not there.
well, I mean,
Oh, in the office, yeah. But to me, if you're a property owner, you should,
You have the right.
yeah, you should have the right. You should have the right to run.
Assessments and everything, you know, you came in,
To me, if
because
you-
a lot of it getting elected as trustee is, you know, people look at your bio and that's why they decide. Any popular.
Number one,
And
if-
if you're popular around here, and like you said, you know,
You're in.
you know, so I
But if you can be bonded, if you
So we
can be
confirmed
bonded,
it,
bonded, I agree with
You
you.
and it's already in there.
You covered the rest
It's
of it.
already in here,
Exactly.
it's already in the covenants. It should be bonded.
So,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, the rest of that's,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can be bonded, getting into your deep personal life is, and, so say we make this a rule, and we just, do you really wanna start disqualifying people and telling everybody they got a felony, or they,
No, I don't
well,
want to.
well, then how are you
I don't
gonna disqualify them without putting it out there? Why?
Why?
It's nobody's business if you file bankruptcy, or if you got felony DWIs, as long as you can be bonded, and it's in there.
The bankruptcy thing, that the last part of that, foreclosure, what if they owe Goose Creek money?
Well, then they're not in good standing, they can't be
They can't run
anyway.
it.
yeah, and that's
We've
not
already
good
got a
standing.
rule to cover that.
That's what they're talking about, is changing the qualifications. It doesn't say anywhere on here about the good standing anymore. Where's the good standing?
It's still in there.
It's in the covenant.
It's
not on
already
this
there.
page. It's not on this
This
page.
is a change to the covenants,
An
right?
update.
Well, not if we
An
don't
update to
put
the
it on.
covenants?
Wait,
Yeah, but that
No,
should be
Steve.
still in there.
the good standing thing's still in here, this is just
Okay.
changing that paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we're
If
not
you-
taking that out.
After a while, get your covenants in this, and you'll see that it's still there.
But what we're saying basically is that we've already got it in there that you have to be bonded.
Yeah.
We've already got it in there that you have to be in good standing. The rest of this stuff is just going too far.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's my opinion. But guess what? There's 9 of us, so,
No,
How
I
about
agree.
the drug test?
I agree 100% with you.
well, that's 2 of us.
How about the,
Three people.
I don't
how about the drug test and the background check?
I don't agree with that.
No.
I don't.
Yeah, no, that's because if you disqualify them for that, then you have to put it out there to the whole public why you disqualify them, and that's going too
That's
far.
personal information.
That's going too
Well,
far.
that and on, you know, I don't even know how, because I don't do drugs, but, you know, you're allowed to go out to other states, and, you know, you go to Colorado and California and smoke pot, you come back home, you fail a drug test, you know, at what point is what is a drug test?
And
You
it's
know,
gonna be legal by your line, you're gonna.
That's
be
what I mean.
anyway, so
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
you're gonna have to specify
Right.
meth, cocaine, heroin.
Well,
Well, you're gonna have
You know,
to specify each one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
It'd be a nice.
I've been a property owner for a long time. I don't think having somebody under the influence has ever been a big issue. So, and most of us drink too much at times, so next thing you know, they'll put that on there.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right, I drink too much at times.
It's a legal drug. Just
If
like
you
marijuana's
go to the
gonna
club,
be
you
legal.
cannot run for trustee.
Yeah.
Legal drug of choice.
Yeah, so.
So I guess we need to bring it back to the covenants and ask them to do some rewording.
Well, I don't think there's a need at this
I don't
point.
think
Well,
we need
no, I
either.
guess not.
We have to be
correct.
bonded,
Yeah.
you have to be in good standing, the rest of it's just too personal.
Yeah.
I don't see a need unless they have, if let's say wanna go through and say, there is a need and this is why. Then we'll listen.
The only question I have is
The
on
one
the
part that it
outstanding
was
judgment.
eliminated would have been the best part to put in there, and that, in my opinion, if an employee has been here and been
I
terminated.
don't agree with that too,
That
because
they-
people have gotten fired in the past by boards change and opinions change, and there's been good people fired before that have a right to defend themselves later or be a part of something that if you don't agree with something, then we ask everybody, step up, be a part, and change it, you know, do your best to change it.
And it's also a
There's-
personnel issue, so.
There's been employees that have been fired that
Get in there.
may or may not,
They're good people.
yeah.
Exactly. That's
If they're
what-
property owners, then they have a right to be on the board.
I have a question on the
I don't buy that
outstanding
either.
judgment. Are we talking about that in reference, outstanding judgment? What's that actually in reference to in that judgment as far as legal judgment?
We'll love that.
And this is a legal issue, is if I was sued
Mhm.
and I lost, and there's a $250,000 judgment against me, over and above what my insurance liability paid. That judgment is still alive and well. And there are people that their job is to find out how much money you have. And if you win the lottery and get $25,000, they run out and they attach that money to pay that judgment off. There's companies that do this. The question would be if a trustee who has signature rights at the bank has a judgment against them, would this be an item that could be?
I can answer that. They can't even touch a co-account.
Yeah, I was
As long as
gonna say-
there's another person on that account, they can't touch it.
I was gonna say,
So-
either you and I talked about it or Zelda.
So-
Zelda.
so no, they
And that was
cannot.
what- And that's what the question was about. It was a legal question. And
They
we-
can't even
we
touch a
weren't-
husband and wife co-account. If there's two names on there, now if your name's solely, they got you.
Yeah.
But if there's more than one name on it, they
They
cannot
can't
touch
touch
it.
it.
So
And
that
that
is,
goes
that's
back,
not an issue.
Barb, you were around, I think, when it happened too. There was some board members, just so happened one year, 5 board members bought 5 brand new cars.
Red pickup trucks.
And a lot of the property owners thought the board took the money out of here.
Bought all new trucks.
No,
Where's
bought
the
new,
truck?
everybody bought, there were 5 members on the board bought new cars.
The board
That'd be a
bought-
big-
The board bought those 500
Yeah,
cars.
that'd be a big chunk of money missing, that'd be a red flag everywhere.
I
And
would,
that was before Facebook.
How do you
Yeah.
think I got my button?
So, I mean, that was just the way it flew around here, and there's no way that nobody would notice that kind of money going.
Really, very agreement.
All right.
We don't really need it.
We don't even, no, that's it.
No,
So
we
we don't
don't.
wanna get it out, right?
Okay. All right, next,
So that's squash, right?
Yeah,
for now.
Well, it
Stay
had to
home.
be officially.
We have to
done next week.
officially do it next week.
yeah.
okay, the next thing on here is, we need to work on setting up the next election committee and appointing the election committee chairman.
Hasn't that already been done,
Nobody has been appointed.
according to your emails?
No, I said that we had discussed it, and I had talked to somebody about it, but I have not appointed anybody, because I just discovered we're in a meeting.
Well, because when I put it on the group text, you immediately called me up and told me that the chairperson was the one to assign, and it's not.
It is, it's right here.
It is not. The bylaws state, that,
I read it, the way I read it was that you could appoint other committees.
I can appoint additional committees. Correct.
committee, but not the election committee.
It's by the committee section.
That's why we got more than one of them.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was in covenant. It is also in the covenants. In the covenants, under the glossary, election committee.
Mhm.
Property owners in the subdivision appointed by the trustees to oversee the elections.
Correct.
Okay, and then in the bylaws,
Page 4.
with the approval of the board, the chairman may also appoint such additional volunteer committees as deemed necessary to carry out the duties and objectives.
Mhm.
But it's with the approval of the board.
That's appointing
That's-
additional
that's-
committees.
Appoint additional committees.
Because you told me it was for the election committee.
I have the election committee rules here, and the election committee rules state that the election committee chairman is appointed by the chairman of the board.
I don't care what that says, I'm going by the covenants,
The
and I'm going by
covenant,
the bylaws.
the bylaw that you're reading says that it's talking about appointing for new committees.
Okay.
not for committee
No,
members.
She's telling
That's
me,
not committee members.
she is telling me election committee.
But what
I
you're
want
reading there
clarified.
is for new committees, not committee members.
Well, isn't,
Right listed under it is covenants committee and election committee.
It
Yeah, but
doesn't
it
say
says-
anything about members.
it says
It's for
currently.
new committees.
your point being that the whole board should be involved in the process instead
Exactly.
of,
That's my point.
so.
I was just going by the rules I was given.
I haven't been given those rules.
Well, if that's election committee's rules, and if it isn't, we have to go by what the bylaws and the covenants say, that's just a sub-document. It doesn't overpower so we need to interpret by the bylaws and the covenants, and then make a decision on how it's gonna go.
Okay, but
Off of that.
this is talking about appointing additional
I
committees.
read
These
that.
are the committees that are
Like
appointed
the
now.
election committee and covenants committee are listed underneath there, and when I called specifically about election, no, you called me.
Yeah, because you asked me a
I
question.
questioned this, and you called me, and you immediately
No,
said,
The only thing
"It's
I
not
was
responsibility."
confused about is at the very beginning on the article, it says the board, as soon as possible after electing officers, shall appoint trustees to duties on the following committees. The various committees shall be reporting committees to the board. So the only thing I would say in reference to thinking that it possibly could be what you're saying is it's saying that the board is electing the trustees to elect the committees. And
We
that's
did
what
that
these-
the first day we
I
signed.
know, but these are committees as well too, is what she's
Duties
saying.
of officers, the chairman.
I looked at it with it being the committee, it's a committee thing.
But it's
Not a-
underneath, it's a separate section underneath the part that you're reading.
Right, but I mean, when I read that part, I'm looking at it as it just being a
Well,
committee.
That's like the admin committee or permits.
Yeah.
I actually thought I read that it was the chairman's duty to.
Yeah, because you kept, that was down here.
But I wanna verify, because, again, I do feel that too many things are being made by one person. I
So
wanna
what is
know,
that, did you have, you have one?
and I do think that the whole board should have say in it, but. With the approval of the board, the chairman may also appoint such additional volunteers to carry out duties are.
Additional volunteer committees.
Additional volunteer.
Yeah, but it lists the election
But it
committee
still
as
says-
one of them.
That's what
Okay,
it is.
I think what I'm taking is that we have 4 committees that the Goose Creek Lake Trustees is recognizing. And it is saying that these 4 committees, the chairman is the one that is gonna be appointing the members. The only thing that the chairman is not gonna do as far as the chairman can make it, like if somebody brings a new committee in, the chairman's the one that can vote.
No, with the approval of the board.
That's what I'm saying.
With the approval of the board.
We can appoint additional committees.
So you're saying that
But I was going by the emails that we got, that said that she had already spoken to Mike, that Mike was leaving, and I would really like to know, did you volunteer to step down as chairperson? Were you asked to step down as chairperson?
I volunteered.
Or you volunteered to be the scapegoat, or you volunteered you wanted done with it?
You know, I felt that it probably wouldn't hurt anything if, you know, if I was part of the magnet of all those issues, that it wouldn't be, I'd be happy to step back.
Okay.
And I can still be on the committee, but I'd be happy to be chairman, don't get me wrong, because a little
Continuity?
yeah, little issues like this don't tend to bother me, all right? But I did feel that if everybody felt like it'd be good to get a new chairman, I'd be fine with that too.
And that was not a group decision.
No, that was me telling a couple of people on the board that, hey, if you need a new chairman, that's fine.
Okay, and like I said, I was going by these rules that I was given for the election.
Yeah.
That we did not have privy to.
But there were.
And probably 20 years ago, those rules were approved by the board 20 years ago.
At that time.
And until those rules get set aside, which you can do on this board, that's why we had that procedures manual, because once something gets voted on by a board 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's a rule. Until somebody else comes along and says, hey, this is a stupid rule, let's get away from that.
what I was given.
Right, so if you wanna get away from the rules of, I mean, there's a bunch of rules about the election committee of who can be on it and who can't.
Yeah, that's
be
what I
on it.
have here.
Right, and just because the chairman has always selected the chairman of the election committee. And for a number of years, it's been Mike, but every year at the November meeting, it was one of the things that was brought up. Who's gonna be the election committee? I mean, it's a really high-paying job, so, you know, everybody's in line,
Higher
for
than
gonna be
trustees.
this person. And it was always, then it was in the minutes of the meeting that Mike Schaefer, I don't remember. who-
It's usually a low profile
Yeah.
job too.
Larry Sumner was the chairman for a number of years.
Yes.
I think he was before you, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, and usually it's one of those long-standing things, because once you get saddled with that kind of a job, you tend to stay
Nobody
settled.
runs against you.
You need to go through it about a year before you get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And like I
And you
said,
gotta take
Mike
notes.
had talked to me about it and said he was willing to stay on as a committee, but he would really rather not chair it, so.
yeah. And like I said,
Well, and-
it's like, I'm looking at, it's not about me so much, it's like if I was too much of a magnet for issues on that issue, then I can step back, that's not a big deal.
I can be perfectly honest, the day that you spoke, I expected bedlam, and you did one hell of a job. And you did one hell of a job.
Thanks.
And I was proud of you, and I was proud of everybody that day, the way that things worked out.
So you would still be willing to continue?
Sure. That's not a
To
problem.
stay on the committee, yeah.
I mean,
or
to
you'd be willing to chair it even if you.
I could, that's fine. Like I said, it takes a year or so because, you know, the interesting thing here is you got people on the committee that have also been on the committee a while. And that day, it's, you know, you're taking, you know, I'm taking advice from a number of people, all right? People who've done it before longer than I have. Barb's she's pretty tight on procedures, and so I was taking notes. And it's, like I
I'm
said,
with
it's,
Vicky. I thought you did an excellent job explaining
Oh, I did
everything
too.
that they.
I also
personally
want
like
to say
on.
that, as far as I'm concerned, the election committee is the most important committee that we have. Because they are the ones overseeing who is being allowed to run or not run. They need more information and backup, but I really think they're the most important. And I don't want any Tom, Dick, or Harry, or somebody that is a property owner to show up at the meeting and say, oh, goody, I wanna be on this committee. I think it's a committee that needs to be a closed, select committee.
And I
disagree.
yeah,
Just
just so
so
you
you
know,
know,
you guys, I'm happy to be on the, you know, because part of it, the big work is what, the mailings, right? And there's a lot of work, a lot of volunteer work that happens then. Extra people beyond the committee come in. I mean, there's 8 or 10 people in this room putting these packages together. And then there's, you know, the big day is the day of the election. In this particular year, there's a lot of energy that went into that selection process or evaluation process, all right? And again, I'm happy to be on the committee.
I would just go.
I'm happy to be on the committee. If somebody, you know, if you've got somebody in mind that would like to step up, you know, I'm also one, and I think I said it that day, is it's hard enough to get volunteers. If there's somebody willing to step up, man, that's great. That'd be another person that could get pulled in, all right?
But you would still be willing to.
I'd be willing to.
On the committee, you said.
Yeah.
No, and
Or
you can
either.
be the chair.
So,
Yeah.
as a trustee.
But that's not what our prior
It
discussion
wasn't,
was.
it wasn't. That day
You
of that
told me
election,
you
I
did not want
clearly
to share.
said.
Okay.
So I
But
was
with that
not giving you
being
false
said,
Yeah,
information.
because there was so much bad energy going on, I felt
Will you
maybe
take in
somebody had
consideration
to
this, that you
step
would
off.
be willing to remain as chairman
Yeah,
of
I'm
the
fine.
committee?
It's our decision to make, all of us.
Barb, is it a decision for the whole board, or do we have to go by the election committee?
Well, your bylaws, your bylaws say that, I think that the board is involved.
And so do the covenants.
Well, I would like to say that when we talk about it, that I want to recommend, Mr.
That would be
Schaefer.
on, that would be on.
Well,
No, I
We'll have to do
understand
that for next week.
That I'm just,
I just
I
wanna
wanted to make sure
get
that
it out
he's
in the open.
comfortable with it. If he's comfortable with it, then I would like to you know, if you would be comfortable continuing as chairman of the election committee.
I would be
And I
happy
think
with
Lynn has
it.
talked to another individual too, that's why I'm saying it's, you know, I'd be happy to help that person. That's.
And there's some historical stuff about the other person, and I don't know all the facts, and I don't think, there might be a couple of people here that would know that for that,
That I don't know.
but
Okay.
But that's,
it's a gossip thing.
that's long,
That's a long time.
Okay,
long ago.
Because he's the one that told me about it, so I don't know if there
Yeah, well,
was.
it's still fresh in his mind.
Must have good money.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Anybody?
So it's a decision that we need to make. Do we want to recommend some people today, or?
I was gonna say,
We're not, we can't.
Yeah.
We just have to, we talk about it and we do it next week.
And we've already kind of know because we weren't actually supposed to. They were-
Yeah, but we needed to ask Mike to clarify.
And I understand that.
Because I didn't want any misunderstanding,
We're already
because
going.
the information that I did share was that he had told me he was gonna
Yeah.
step down
Okay.
as committee chairman.
And the information that I got in email was it was a done deal.
No, I just
No.
And
said,
when
I
you
didn't
called
think
me,
it was.
okay.
no,
I didn't think it that way.
I know.
I
I was just letting you know
I didn't
the
think it
status.
was either.
It was not a done deal, absolutely not.
Just somebody said they didn't take
And it could have been a phone call.
If you can
It was
read-
because you were going by your paperwork and I was going by the covenants and bylaws.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hear you.
you guys, anybody else have anything?
Well, I have some questions, but I don't know if we can do them today. You may have to do it in a regular session or executive.
Is it related to what's on our agenda for the work
You
session?
know,
Is it,
you just-
Things that,
is it,
I just
as long
need-
as it's not personnel related or legal or if,
well, that could be, so we'll wait till next week.
okay.
I'll make it next week.
Okay, like I said, and if it's
I have
something,
my notes.
okay, you can ask Stella to put it on the executive, or to put it on the agenda, and she can determine if it needs to go into the executive session or into the open board meeting.
Well, I think most of this would be, executive.
Okay,
And then we would move it to open.
okay, that'd be fine.
We can clarify things then.
Okay,
I just have several questions. It just say I need to put it on there that I have several questions I'd like to ask, and we'll go from there.
that's perfectly fine.
And I would like to say thank you, and I want to apologize if I was terse or pilly about stuff, but I appreciate the fact that I'm not the only one that's feeling left out, and I really look forward and want to get to know and work together.
Yes.
We're a team, and even if I don't agree with all the decisions, I will back the decisions, and I expect the same from you.
Okay,
But if I was nasty, I
And
apologize.
I apologize for that.
no, that's fine. I mean,
All
we're
right,
all
we
here,
don't
all
put-
here to voice our
Here's
opinion.
the thing, if we don't put it on the table, we're not gonna know about it. Just like if I tell everybody, if I offend you, I don't know it unless you tell me. I don't wanna hear it from everybody else, I want that person to come to me, and that's what I always tell